Whoa. This experience was so visceral that there was absolutely no doubt in the existence of the universal spirit. How I celebrated my 30th is kind of crazy.
So beautiful.
I've known for about a year that Mexico is calling me, that I need to go to Mexico. There's something in it for me. I also knew to keep the few days around my birthday open. My birthday is on August 11th. I knew something would come up. And then one day I open Instagram and I see my Qigong and meditation teacher, Droge, post this video saying Grace Retreat happening in Mexico on exactly the dates that I was keeping open in August. And something in me just knew that this is it. This is where I need to go. This is what I need to do. And the video was extremely beautifully made with a lot of nature, fire, and all the elements. And I called up Topaz, who is the organizer of this retreat. Within the first 5 minutes, I knew this is it. The way that he explained it is that the retreat is not your traditional meditation or yoga personal development retreat. And I've done a lot of these. I've led some myself. Rarely I go to one that is completely different from the other ones. This one just sounded different and I knew it would be different. So I get my ticket, I show up in Mexico, and the storytelling begins. There was a group of 18 of us and all the people are curated with a specific energy in mind to create certain alchemy within the group. First 2 days we spent sharing stories. Every person got to share, whether it's your life story or what comes up in that moment, or something you're ready to release, or something you're ready to call in. Every time we would sit down for a storytelling session, it would be in a different environment. Sometimes it was in a cave, sometimes it's in a pool with mineral healing water, sometimes it's around the fire. Something magical happens when you sit in that circle. At first I was hesitant to go up there and not really wanting to dig back into my story and all the things that don't serve me anymore from my past. And then I knew when the moment for me to sit in front of the group was, and I got in front and I knew exactly what to share. It's like something took over me and I knew exactly the stories and the metaphors and the lessons that not just I needed to express, but the people in the group needed to receive. Because when you share a story in a very safe container, it ends up affecting every single person in the group. We create an extremely safe and loving container through sound, through movement, through music, through rhythm, through moving our bodies together and having our hearts turn into the same frequency. And I went up there and I shared about growing up and foraging mushrooms with my grandfather and how that really was my first way of connecting with nature, even though I wasn't aware of it. Growing up and not feeling a sense of belonging, some of my insecurities and fears and doubts and relationships. I don't even remember exactly what I shared, but it was extremely cathartic. Something happens when it's not just one person sharing their story with a group of people, but it's every single person sharing the most intimate things, the most vulnerable things. For some people, they had never shared those things out loud about themselves. And once I had exposed myself in that way, I felt seen, and I felt like I'm no longer attached to the story that I shared. And yes, in a lot of contexts, whatever we talk about, we bring more of into our life, and that's how law of attraction works. But in this specific setting, and the way it was designed, through one person sharing their story, every one of us in the circle would see a piece of themselves in that story. And in that merging the same field, what happens is the dissolution of ego. You hear challenges people have gone through. Once it is shared and you no longer hold it inside, you're released from it. And then Donny Epstein came. If you don't know Donny Epstein, he is the personal healer of Tony Robbins. Some people call him wizard, some people call him psychic, some people call him healer and chiropractor, and he's been around the block for a long time. He's from New York. He just like points his hand at you or a group of people and everyone just goes like, oh! Your body is being taken over by the field of energy that you do not have control over. The way it goes, there were 4 tables set up and each one of us would get a turn to go there. while everyone else is sitting in a circle around. And we filled out these questionnaires about what we want to release, what we want to call in, what we want less of in our lives, what we want more of. So he kind of had an idea of who we are, but he didn't really need those questionnaires because he can see and read the energy around us. I was going into it and thinking, what if I don't feel it? What if it doesn't work on me? What if it doesn't work the way I expect it to? And it took me over. The first thing that Donny told me is that I'm seeking beauty, and I keep seeking it outside of myself. But the truth is that the real beauty is in being raw and real and releasing perfection. And I just started bawling there on the table. And then he did other things where he would point at a certain area of my body, and this would go like this, and this would go like this, and this would go like this. And then he just somehow connects it all together, and you're taken down from the table to lay down and rest it and integrate. And then we had this group session where he let us all together as a group feel different energies: soul energy, universal spirit, and mind energy. And through that experience, see how all of them feel differently in our bodies. And what I love about all of it, first of all, yes, it was a very extreme experience that clicked in a lot of things I've been working on for years, like I never had before. Because with a lot of spiritual teachings, there was still like, yeah, I understand this, I want to believe this, but I don't know if it's embodied. There's like still a hint of doubt. Well, this experience was so visceral and so physical that there was absolutely no doubt in the existence of the universal spirit. I was really lucky because I had a chance to interview Donny for my podcast, Woke and Wired. And podcast might be out by the time this is out, so look out for it. Woke and Wired on iTunes and everywhere you find podcasts. We talked about energy in the context of business and social media and artificial intelligence. So one of the things that really synced in from our time with Donny is how the universe doesn't see the difference whether we're asking for more of something or less of something. It just hears the thing we're saying, and it gives us more of that. So we got to be really conscious about what we talk about. And when we talk about things that don't serve us and bring us down, that brings our energy down to either energy poor, as Donny would say, or neutral. 90% of people apparently live in the neutral state. Whether you believe in the power of words and language or not, it affects every cell in our body, and then that affects our field and affects how we build our life. So choosing things that empower you, choosing thoughts that are a reflection of where you want to be, feels like this, versus neutral. So just start being conscious about things you allow yourself to think about, how you talk to other people, and just that one thing can make an enormous impact. Put more energy into talking about things and doing things that bring you joy and uplift you. And laughter. Laughter is a huge medicine. It immediately shifts your energetic state. I also loved the concept of what Donny calls the weaver energy. I remember growing up, I would love watching movies where, you know how there's like different plots of the movie and then they all come together at one point and your mind is blown and you see how all the characters are actually connected and how they all play a vital role in each other's lives. So Donny calls it the weaver energy. It's this energy that brings the right people, the right places, the right circumstances exactly to where they need to be. Kind of like the Sliding Doors movie with Gwyneth Paltrow. Because she misses a train in one scenario, her life is completely different from when she catches the train. So just those few seconds can make an enormous impact on your life. And that's not really something to do something about. It's more about knowing that the energy is there, knowing that you're always being guided, and trusting the calling, taking the calling and taking action on it. Our experience with Nacho, who is a musician and a sound healer, was just insane. Using sacred geometry and sound and vibration, we created a sacred temple inside our body. At the end of it, I was just feeling so sweet in my body, so sensual, like, this is my skin. I feel so good to be in my skin. And mind you, I spent most of my life not feeling that way, feeling like I need to lose weight or something about me needs to change. So that finding that sweetness and knowing that there is a practice that does that was just so empowering. And then we also spent time with Thomas and did Qigong in the cave, and I was late for that because I was interviewing Donny, and I came towards the end of the practice and sat down in a circle with everyone. And because the energy field was already affected by what people were doing, I synced into and dropped into that field immediately. And it was so beautiful to tangibly feel the results of practice. Listen, I've done a lot of personal development work. This was different because I've never experienced all levels of existence coming together, and it not being an experience that is removed from real life, but actually something where we still dress normally, we still eat, we still socialize, we drink wine at night, and yet we go really deep in exploring within ourselves and outside of ourselves and our interconnection with the universal energy and what we want in our life. The culmination of it was my birthday yesterday, and we had a sweat lodge ceremony. It was my first. We sat down in a circle around fire, and the guys leading it, young shamans, they were drumming and singing sacred songs. And then we went in, and it was 5 rounds of being in this tiny teepee with hot volcanic stones in the middle. And each round was different and had a different purpose and intention. Some of them we shared our prayers, some we shared our gratitude, some would sit in silence, some would listen to songs. And it was this idea of being uncomfortable with the heat, and instead of letting it overtake us, and in that being uncomfortable, letting it penetrate our being, giving us a chance to be fully present with everything that we are and everything that we're not, and everything that we want to be and everything that we don't want to be. I'm the person who doesn't get comfortable with heat, especially like Russian baths. I'm in and out, and let me tell you, it got really freaking hot in there. And because there was this communal energy and circle of holding it for each other, I did it, and it felt detoxifying, purifying, cleansing, and eating after that was like eating for the first time in my life. Fun fact, in the teepee, a day after the Donny experience, I was still sitting there in the dark, and my body was making the waves that is typical of working with Donny and what arises in people's bodies. The peak of my experience was when we were sharing around the circle in the hot teepee, coals burning, it's totally, completely pitch dark. We were going around the circle and sharing our prayer for what we wanted in our life. And I was one of the first people to go and kind of said something really short, how I want just every action to be from love and gratitude. And then other people around the circle said such brilliant things that have to do with clarity in work and relationships and very specific things. And that was the instruction from shaman, to be very specific with what we want to manifest. And I started thinking to myself, man, I could have said so many more things, and I could have been so much more specific, and I was punishing myself. First step of dealing with it was realizing that all the prayers that other people are saying, they're for all of us. And the second one was, for the first time ever, not from getting my astrology chart read, not from getting my human design read, but from the inside, from the core of my being, realizing my design and understanding that I discover things, and I discover how I want to live my life and what I want to create and the impact I want to create through community and through others. My power comes from being in a community. And I'm someone who's very independent. I love to spend time on my own, not rely on other people. So for me, it was a complete breakthrough to know that my medicine is spending time with people. And for that, I am forever grateful. I'm so ready to go back into the world and feel completely different. I should have taken a before and after video. If you ever have a chance to go on Grace Retreat, I highly recommend it. It's like nothing else you've done. Wow. I feel such clarity, and a lot of times when a retreat is over, there's like, I'm not ready to go back into the real world. But this time, this was real world. There is no veil of separation, and I was not different for this. I'm just more of myself, more than ever.